Welcome back to the channel. I've just now received the ACE Pro 2 from Insta360. If you're wondering how well suited this action camera is for underwater use, then this video is right for you. Whether you're looking for a small and compact way to document your underwater adventures, or you just want to see how well this camera may fit into your next dive trip, on this video we're going to start by reviewing its physical features before going into resolutions, frame rates, and even some AI related features that all go into how well this camera may be suited for underwater use. For full disclosure, this video is sponsored by Insta360. They did provide me with this camera, and I do have an affiliate link that is posted in the description to where you can purchase this for yourself. With that said, I want to take a fully unbiased approach by testing out some of these features and even showing you some test footage, that way you can decide for yourself on whether or not this camera is right for you. But before we do that, let's get this camera out of its box. This is it, the Insta360 ACE Pro 2. First off, I want to mention that this camera feels nice and weighty in your hand, and it feels like you're holding something that's pretty well made. I also want to lead with the fact that this camera is exciting because it has a large 1/1.3 inch 8K sensor along with a dual AI chip that's going to further assist your image with better noise reduction, better image processing, and it's also going to play into some other AI related features that we'll talk about here in a little bit. Looking at the bottom of the camera, we can see that we have the attachment point of the removable magnetic mount, and on the magnetic mount itself we have pads on either side that make it really easy to attach or detach this mount from the camera. Over on the left side of the camera, you're going to see this power button, and it's not only going to function as an on and off switch for your camera, but it's also going to be a way for you to change between different presets or even access different functionality while you're shooting. And of course, just like on any other action camera, you're going to find the record button right over here on the top right hand side. Now going back down to the same side of the camera where the power button is located, you're going to find a tiny little hatch, and when you open this up, you're going to see the USB-C port that's going to be used for charging and data transfer, and it's also where the SD card slot is going to be located as well. Moving on to the other side of the camera, you'll see that we have this larger hatch. When you open that up, you'll find your battery. This is an 1800 mAh battery, which should give you plenty of recording time out in the field. Moving over to the front of the camera, we have this removable lens cover. You simply just grab it, twist and pull out, just like with any other action camera. And then directly underneath that, we also have the microphone that is covered with a removable wind cover. Keep in mind, if you're going to take this camera on a dive without the underwater housing, be sure to replace removable wind cover with a microphone cap. This will not only make it more watertight, but it will also improve the sound quality when you're using this camera out on the water. Over to the left of the microphone is going to be a forward-facing screen that's going to show you some necessary details about the settings of what you're currently shooting. It's important to point out that this is in fact not a display screen. If you wanted a display screen to be forward-facing, that's going to bring me to one of my favorite features about this camera, and that's going to be the flip-up screen. This flip-up screen is going to be really handy for those of us that are vlogging, or if you simply just want a forward-facing display screen, and it is functional underwater. Just keep in mind, not when it's inside of the dive case. Speaking of underwater, without the dive case, you can take this camera down to a depth of 39 feet or 12 meters. However, if you wanted to do longer dives or take your camera down to a depth deeper than that, you can get the underwater dive housing from Insta360, which will increase your max depth down to 197 feet. And now that we've gone through this camera's physical features, let's talk more about resolutions, frame rates, and even some of the AI-based features. And since this video is about taking this camera underwater, I think right now would also be a good time to mention Insta360's underwater mode. This mode ensures the best possible stabilization and distortion correction while shooting underwater, delivering more realistic and natural looking results. You can see here in this image where underwater mode was not enabled that there's quite a bit of distortion, especially around the outside edges. And with this shot on the other hand, where underwater mode was enabled, there's not really any noticeable distortion, as this image seems much more clean and put together. As I mentioned earlier, Insta360 has created a number of AI related features that are available on this camera, driven by their brand new dual AI chip. In this case, AI was able to assist in creating a feature that enables you to control your camera using voice commands. And because we're underwater, we're not going to be able to use voice commands, but with the ACE Pro 2, you can control your camera using hand gestures. There's also an AI-driven feature to where you can pre-record your footage for 90 seconds before hitting the record button if you're shooting in 4K, and up to 120 seconds in 1080p. Because when you're out in the field, You never know what you're going to run into, and you don't want to miss 1 second of it. But in my opinion, one of the more exciting AI-driven features is the ability for the dual AI chip to automatically flag and highlight interesting points in your footage to create a fully finished and well-edited video that you can then share with your friends and family without you having to do any of the hard work that it takes to fully edit a video. I find this feature pretty interesting, and I may even make an entire video about this in the near future. Now, if you're interested in boosting your camera's low light performance, let's take a look at another feature called Pure Video, which is going to be your go-to option for night dives or dive in any sort of low light situation. What this is going to do is offer you enhanced image quality as well as better stabilization in any sort of low light scenario. For example, when I was testing the camera out in the field towards the end of the day as the sun got lower, although there was an abundance of light rays, there just wasn't a whole lot of light that was present in the scene, so I decided to try out this feature. I'll have to say that Pure Video really helped me fall in love with this camera. Now let's test out this feature out on the river right at dusk in an environment where there's almost no natural ambient light. Aside from the exciting capability created from the dual AI chip, one of the flagship features of the ACE Pro 2 is going to be its 8K sensor. Although when shooting in 8K, you're going to be limited to a frame rate of 30 frames a second. It still gives you the ability to crop down to your subject without having to make a huge sacrifice in resolution. And even if you down-res to 4K when you export your footage, you're still going to notice a huge jump in quality. However, because you may want the ability to slow down your footage by 50%, 4K 60 may be your go-to setting. While shooting in 4K 60, you also have access to a feature called Clarity Zoom. This gives you the ability to punch into your image with a 2x zoom while recording, and because of the 8K sensor, it'll still have a resolution of 4K. While shooting in 4K, you can have your frame rate set as high as 120 frames per second. This will offer amazing high resolution, slow motion footage, giving you the ability to slow it down by 20% of its original speed. And if slow motion is what you're into and you're willing to down-res your footage to 1080p, you can shoot at the incredibly high frame rate of 240 frames a second. This will allow you to really stop and freeze the action, slowing your footage down to 10% of its original speed. As far as the different color profiles are concerned, this camera comes with a lot of different options, but I'm going to focus on the three main ones, and that's going to be standard, vivid, and flat. Standard will most likely be your go-to option for the best results in camera without having to do a whole lot of work in post-processing. However, if you're interested in enhancing your color correction with your underwater footage, consider taking a look at the Aquavision 2.0 feature that's available in the Insta360 app. And for an option that has slightly more saturated colors, consider trying Vivid. Then there's also Flat. This option is similar to that of a log profile where you'll get better results in color, but it still will require a little bit more post-processing. And then let's not forget about Insta360's professional log profile known as iLog, which is also available on the ACE Pro 2. This is a professional log profile that can capture more detail, provide a broader scope of color that you'll then be able to bring out during your color grading process. This will give you the best results possible, but is only suitable for those who plan on doing a lot of work in post-production. And if you're looking for high dynamic range, you can also enable active HDR. This feature can be enabled in your settings, which will allow your camera to record stabilized, high dynamic range video. Just like with the different color profiles, there's a ton of different lens options to choose from as well. But for the sake of this video, we've just been focusing on Ultra. This is the widest option available that's going to show you the least amount of distortion, which is what makes it ideal for underwater use. A matter of fact, when you change your camera into underwater mode, Ultra is what it's going to default to. Now that I've covered just about everything that I could think of that's relevant to shooting with this camera underwater, let's talk a little bit about some of my favorite accessories that have not only helped me a great deal in getting some of these shots, but I feel that you'll find them useful as well. Let's start with the floating hand grip. This accessory is great for any sort of water sport that's going to take place mostly on the surface, whether that's snorkeling, wakeboarding, water skiing, anything to where if you dropped it in the water, you won't have to worry about it sinking to the bottom of the ocean, the lake, wherever it is that you are. However, as the name suggests, it does float, so if you took the scuba diving and you were to let go of the camera, it will in fact float to the surface, drift away in the current, and you'll most likely never see it again, which is why I don't necessarily recommend this for diving. What I would recommend is this device right here is called the multi-mount. And as you can see, you can use it as a traditional hand grip, or if you're a vlogger and you're looking for some sort of way to film yourself, you can also flip it around and it does unfold into a pretty usable selfie stick. This accessory is negatively buoyant and the bottom does fold out into a tripod. Because it's so negative, it'll sit on the bottom underwater pretty stable, and if you're looking for something that has a lot of different use cases, personally I've gotten a lot of use out of this accessory. The multi-mount is definitely one that I would recommend. Another accessory that I want to talk about is this piece right here. This is the magnetic selfie stick holder, and the way this works is this is going to attach on one of the straps on your dive kit, and on your camera right here at the top of the selfie stick is the other side of the magnet. Now the way that this is going to work is you're simply going to be able to connect these two magnets together, and it's going to safely and securely hold your camera on your side, and if you want to release, you simply just grab onto the stick, you twist, and then it unlocks it just like that. I couldn't recommend this more for scuba diving because, like I said earlier, it enables you to keep your hands free, but you're still able to access it at a moment's notice. And that's going to wrap this video up. I hope that you not only found this information useful, but you enjoyed all the underwater footage as well. Since you stuck around this long to learn about the ACE Pro 2, if you wanted to learn more about the 360 camera, the Insta360 ACE PRO, I'll link that video right here. And like I mentioned earlier, if you're interested in purchasing one of these cameras for yourselves, I do have an affiliate link posted down in the description. And I'll leave one for not only the ACE Pro 2, but also the Insta360 ACE 4. Of course, I'll see you on the next dive. Thanks for watching.